Hi everyone, welcome to another session from Law and Language from Dharmapeetam. So, for a while now we had been discussing the difference between primary auxiliary verbs and modal auxiliary verbs. We have already completed 4 of them. Now we have come to the last difference between a primary auxiliary verb and a modal auxiliary verb. Here, until now, we have discussed 4 major differences between a primary auxiliary verb and a modal auxiliary verb. And all these 4 differences were going in favor of the primary auxiliary verbs. Primary auxiliary verbs can be used as a main verb, modal auxiliaries cannot. Primary auxiliaries have verb forms, modal auxiliaries do not. Primary auxiliaries can be used in tenses, modal auxiliaries cannot. Primary auxiliaries have a singular plural difference, modal auxiliaries do not. Right? Now, the 5th difference is that actually this goes in favor of the modal auxiliary verbs. So, when we discussed auxiliary verbs, helping verbs, in the definition we said an auxiliary verb or a helping verb is a verb that helps the main verb in a sentence to complete its meaning when the sentence is constructed based on a tense form or for expressing some special purposes, right? So, in the previous difference, we have seen how these auxiliary verbs are used in tense forms. So, now the remaining part or the part that is remaining in this particular definition is using helping verbs for expressing special purposes. So, if there is something special to be expressed, some special purpose for which we need to use the language, we have to use an auxiliary verb there. Those auxiliary verbs are actually modal auxiliary verbs, not primary auxiliary verbs. So, modal auxiliaries can be used for expressing sentences for special purposes. Primary auxiliary verbs cannot. Cannot in the sense we can use, but we may have to use extra number of words in that. We'll check that how it is. Now, what do you mean by these special purposes? Special purposes means if you have to express a possibility, the possibility for something to happen, or if we want to express some ability that we have or someone has, if you have to make a request, it's a special purpose. If you have to give a permission, for example, when we go out of the classrooms and when we have to get back into the classrooms, we need to seek the permission. So, we use a special kind of a sentence for asking that permission, and the teacher who is inside the class may accept or deny it. Right? So, for allowing or granting a permission, denying a permission, we have to use a different, all these things are different special purposes. If you have to make a request, if you have to make a suggestion, if you have to make an advice, if you have to command someone, if you have to express some kind of an obligation, then necessity, if we need something, if you have to ask a friend for something, how that has to be asked, how you have to express some particular kind of habits. So, all these kinds of things actually come under special purposes, and for each one of these purposes we use different modal auxiliary verbs, or modal auxiliary verbs are basically used for expressing these kinds of situations than the other things like tenses and all, right? So, now we know that the modal auxiliary verbs are can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, need, dare, used to, ought to, must. These are the modal auxiliary verbs and how we use them. Basically, can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, they are more important than must, ought to. So, let's check. So, now we can see some slides over here for every individual modal auxiliary verbs with the function on one side and an example on the other side. We'll start with the can. The first function of can is to indicate ability. If someone is able to do something, we have to express that, then we say it is an ability being expressed, right? So we say Ravi can play the guitar. Ravi can play guitar. So Ravi has an ability, and that is he knows how to play a guitar, right? So we can express the same thing without a modal auxiliary verb, means Ravi knows how to play a guitar, or Ravi is able to play a guitar, right? But we are adding more words there, knows how to, or is able to, right? But without these many words, we can simply say Ravi can play a guitar, right? So here can is a modal auxiliary verb that is used for expressing an ability. The second one, indicating a possibility. To indicate a possibility, a chance for doing something or happening something. Example given is, we can drive or walk. We can drive or walk. The place where we want to go is not far away. If it's okay with you, yeah, it's possible for us to go there by walk. Or if it is not possible with you, we will take a car and go, or a bike and go, or a cycle and go, whatever it is, right? So there's a possibility, either of one. So we say we can drive or walk. Third one, indicating permission. Indicating permission. Here the problem is it's an informal permission. Informal permission. Informal means not an official one. Means this is not something that we usually get from the class teacher or a teacher in the class or my superiors, people like that. This kind of a thing is actually happening in between friends, siblings, etc. The example given here is, you can borrow that book. You can borrow that book, no problem. So that is a kind of a conversation happening in between two friends or two siblings or someone like that. Not in between a teacher or a student or a superior and a junior. Nothing like that. Even to make a request also, an informal request, we use a can. Can I have some water? It's more a friendly request. If you go out of the classroom to get some water or to use the washroom or something like that, after coming back, what do we or what are we supposed to ask to the teacher to get a permission? We do not use can there, right? We use a may there. May. May I come in, sir? It's not a can I come in, right? So can, when we use to make a request, ask a permission or grant a permission, it's more informal in nature, friendly in nature, but not official in nature, right? So these four are the usages of a can. Can be used to indicate ability, indicate a possibility, indicate or to make an informal request or an informal permission. Now, could. Could is basically used as a past tense of can. As I say, she could speak French. She could speak French. So some years ago, maybe, she lived in France and she was able to speak in French then. Now she came back. She is not in touch with the French anymore. And now it may or may not be, not sure, but once upon a time she was able to speak in French. So she could speak French. When we use could as the past tense of can, it's also showing an ability, but most often that ability is a past ability. A person may or may not be able to do that now, right? The second one is indicating a possibility. To express a possibility, we can say like you could become a chef. There is a possibility for you to become a chef, provided if you are interested in that. You cooks well, the food you cooks are very tasty. If you are interested, there is a possibility for you to become a chef or to take up the career as a chef, right? So indicating a possibility also is expressed using could. Then make a polite request. Make a polite request. When we are going somewhere and we lost the way and we have to inquire our way. So we met someone on the road. What do we ask them? Could you please tell me the way to the railway station? Could you please? Not can you tell me. If you ask like can you tell me, it is, as I said earlier, it will become an informal kind of a request, and it may not be taken nicely by a stranger because it's informal in nature, right? So if it is a polite request, because we are really in need, even though we do not know who you are, please help us. That is a sense of a polite request. Okay, so in such situations again we use a could. Now may. May is basically used for expressing a possibility. You know, when we watch cricket matches, when it is a nail biting finish, we can always say we may win, even though the chances are less. Still there are some chances with which we can pull it out. Or when the sky gets clouded, what do we say? It may rain. It may rain. So there is a chance, there is a possibility to have rain today, right? So that is expressing a possibility. To indicate permission, may I come in, sir? Is a polite request. You may come in is a polite permission, right? So to make a request or to grant a permission, we can use both can and may. The difference is when may is used, it's more formal in nature, and when we use can, it's more informal or friendly in nature, right? Now might. Might is used for expressing a possibility, but when we use might to express a possibility, it's more possible to happen, it's more certain to happen. For example, when we say it may rain today, it means it depends, it may or may not rain today. But when we say it might rain today, it means the chances for today to have a rain is more. We are more sure, the speaker is more sure that there is a very good chance to have a rain, right? So when we use might to express a possibility, it's more a certain possibility. Clear? The next one is must. Must. We know must is usually used as a replacement for should as well. So must actually indicates an obligation. Obligation means something that has to be done, has to be followed, kind of a thing. We usually say cyclist must wear a helmet. Cyclists must wear a helmet, means wearing a helmet is compulsory for cyclists. It cannot be avoided. That is what we call the obligation. Second usage is to express a likelihood. Likelihood means something we are not sure, but it might have happened. Like for example, we can say, you must be very proud. You must be very proud. This kind of a situation actually happens. Like for example, let us take a live example kind of a thing where it's about a cricket match. A batsman scored a century but the team couldn't win the match. Personally, individually, a batsman scored a century, but unfortunately the team lost the match. But still he could be proud of himself, right? Not about the team. So you must be proud about what you have achieved, but not that proud regarding what happened to the team, right? So the list of modal auxiliary verbs is a lengthier one. Let us cut it into 2 sessions so that it will be easy for you to understand and to follow it as well, right? So we will wind up it over here, and the remaining modal auxiliary verbs we will deal with in the next session. That's it for this session. Thank you.